first of all, I'd like to start by saying that it's always good to have an intention, but the intention doesn't need to be an expectation. The intention behind connecting with our guides and our angels is going to be just allow me to receive the information and connect with the energies that are for the highest good of myself and for others, right? Especially if we're trying to receive information for other people. And where we start with that is really we're kind of taking away like the specifics, which I know is probably backwards because a lot of people teach the opposite. Like they want you to be more specific. They want you to be really detailed about what you're connecting to. But the thing is that when you're starting out, you don't know, right? We don't know what we're connecting to. We're just trying to feel it out to see. So when we set the intention in a very broad open sense, it allows us to connect better into the things without as much expectation of what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, and who it is that or what we're connecting to, right? And so with that, the first kind of big step to that connection is to not worry so much about what they look like or what their name is. These are really human concepts that we place upon them. And so if we take those things away, it makes it so much easier for us to be open to hearing the information from them because we're not constantly worried about, well, I don't know their name and I don't know what they look like and all of these things. Because a lot of times what we're really connecting to is energy. We're not necessarily connecting to another being in the sense that it's like another human, right? They don't always look like us. They don't always talk like we do. They don't have the same way of experiencing life that we do. So it's kind of strange for us to be putting these human expectations onto energy. Looking at them as energy helps us to just allow ourselves to be more open to the frequency, and it's less threatening because I know a lot of people get nervous about their connection because they're like, we don't know what we're connecting to. And it makes people uncomfortable, right? Because we want to make sure that we're connecting with the highest intention because so many of us want to have a genuine connection. We want to have that guidance. We want to have that interaction. We want to learn and grow and be better, right? That's our intent. And so the important part about this is when we connect through the standpoint of energy, it kind of takes away a little bit of that because you'll be able to feel the difference between something that may not really be in alignment with you or something that you're not really looking to connect to and something that is very heart-centered and like love-based, right? Whether it's another being or whatever it is that you're wanting to connect to. And that feeling that you get is going to, it may be different for everyone. So I don't want to discredit if you already have experiences and you kind of know what those are. I don't want to take away from that. I'm just wanting to add to it and clarify. So the feeling of constriction is typically like an energy that you're connecting to that may not be for you. Now, there's a difference between connection out of fear, right? Because sometimes we hold fear about the connection. Not that there is any malintent coming from the other side. It's because we're afraid of what they're going to tell us, what we're going to see, what we're going to hear. And so just be aware that that comes, you have to know if that energy is you or if it's coming from them. So that just takes some practice, but I wanted to put that in there because it will be helpful for you to differentiate as you move through this process of developing your relationship with your guides. Next thing that's really, really helpful is to learn how to cultivate the energy of love within you. And this is something that I can do another video on, because this is something that's actually really difficult to explain. But what I can do is create I can do a meditation video if you guys would be interested in that. And it will help you get into that heart-centered space for connecting and learning how to cultivate that energy. So just a quick summary is that when you're learning to cultivate energy in your body, it comes from your heart center. Okay. So if you're trying to, actually, it depends on what type of energy you're cultivating. I prefer, when I'm connecting with my guides or any beings, especially like ethereal beings, I like to connect from my heart space, because that frequency of love, I want that to be the frequency that is broadcasted out for me to receive back. And but beginning to learn how to cultivate that, you can start by trying to think of something that that either brings you extreme amounts of joy, right? And then, or something or someone that you love unconditionally. That person, it could even be yourself, right? It can be within you, but it helps to start with that, because then you can learn what it feels like within your body, right? Because it may feel a little different to you than it does to me. And that is perfectly fine. So learning how to put yourself in that energy is really about taking a moment and finding your inner peace, right? So you find that center within you. And what you do is, when you have that energy, you can push it and radiate it out from your body. And what you do is you think about it, and you make your intent to allow that energy to move out of you. It doesn't leave you, it's just you're radiating it, right? You're creating a beacon in a sense, right? And probably one of the more complicated aspects of it, but that one is extremely helpful, because it will help you, it will provide you with a very clear and cultivated and extremely, I think it's like my form of protection. That's how I protect myself when I'm working with other energies. So being in that love, heart-centered space, that's how I do it. You may have different ways of doing it. And again, I do not want to negate anything that you already do. And if it works for you, keep doing it. Perfect. That's beautiful. I love it. The next key element to this is when we're starting to try to ask them a bunch of questions, it's sort of taking us out of the present moment. So what we need to do in order to really hear them is learn how to sit with them. We need to learn how to allow the information to come through you in the present moment. So when you're doing the whole what if this, what if that, what about this, what about that, you're not really being present necessarily, because that connection is more about allowing. They already know what it is that you want to know. They already know what you desire to hear. The thing is that they're not always going to tell you those things, because they're there to guide you. And if your intent is to really help you move forward and to be in the energy of the highest good for you and or for others, you need to be present with them, and you need to hear what they say. And this is really important, because so many people just don't take the time to listen, right? They have plenty to say. Trust me. They want to share information with you. They want to be connected with you just as much as you want to be connected to them. But we need to learn how to listen first. Listening is key to receiving guidance. And that could even be from like your soul aspect, right? If you want to connect with your higher self, whatever you're trying to connect into, it is really key to learn how to listen. And maintaining that sense of stillness in the present moment is how you're going to do that, right? And so those are like the two big things that really, really will help your connection. But I do have to say, the less questions that you randomly have about specifics, you're going to feel much more successful in your connection if you are a little bit more open and loose with it, because they don't operate in a very, like, most of them are an energy, an essence, a presence, right? They're not necessarily bound by a form, especially when you get into the angelic realms. They don't have physical bodies, right? They are light beings. And so as we try to relate to them, we put all of these expectations and limitations on them, and then how they're allowed to communicate with us. So a sense of openness and being willing to see and hear, and not necessarily expecting a specific type of communication, is going to be extremely helpful for you to actually start receiving communication. I tried for so many years to create this relationship, and I was like, it's going to look like this. This is what they're going to tell me, and this and this and this. And I put all these rules on it. And I was really frustrated for a long time because the rules didn't help me. My rules were too specific. Yes, structure is extremely helpful in these situations. And to really build that relationship, it will be beneficial to have some structure to it, but you need a loose structure. And that way they can come to you too, right? Because we don't always want to be going to them, right? It's nice if we just say, hey, you know what? I could really use some help. And instead of having to sit down and like going through this whole routine, it'd be nice for them to just be like, oh, cool, here you go, right? Because you're already open enough to allow them in, which is perfect and beautiful. And so really the easiest way to start this process is to just invite them in to your day every day. Just say, guides or angels or whatever beings that you're trying to connect to, just ask them to say, hey, can you just help me today and be a part of my life and guide me if you feel that I could be, if that would be helpful, like if there's something I'm not seeing or whatever. Just invite them in and very casually. And then you'll start, well, if you're paying attention, right? And then we have to pay attention to the signs and be willing to see things like maybe they don't connect with you in a very traditional way. And it's okay, right? What your experience with your guides is doesn't always look like everybody else's. And that's perfect. It's okay, right? Just learn to sit with it and really feel in you if that's something if that's a sign from them, right? And it's going to take practice, but you'll get it. You just have to keep paying attention and just working on it and working on yourself. Okay. So the last little bit that I want to share, I started with writing. That was my key way of communicating with them. I would just ask them what I need to hear or what information, or if I did have a specific question, because sometimes we do have specific questions about our lives and we want to know, like, is there something I'm missing? What's going on here? You just start writing. And, the information will come to you one way or another. They want to support you, so you will get the information. So if you just start writing and you just pose your question, right? Like, what do I need to know today? Or writing. And sometimes you may not get the answer in whatever you're writing, but whatever you write sometimes is helping you clear and move old energy out so you will be open to their response, right? And you may even get it in like the middle of the night, like a thought may just pop in your head and you're going to be like, oh, that's what it is. Though that's them helping you, right? That's them. This person is open enough to receive this information now. And so it plops in you and you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I get it, you know? And so just be willing to be open with them and be open with yourself and be honest with yourself. And that sense of openness and really working with your heart space is going to be so helpful for you in continuing your connection with your guides.